GGG, Sergey Kovalev. In my mind, there's a lot of similarities between the two. They're both Eastern Europeans. They both basically come from nothing to superstars and dominant champions within a short period of time. They're both clearly the best fighter in their division. They're both possibly being ducked by the lineal champion in their division. And yet, in terms of the way they fight, they're both absolutely monstrous punchers, but at the same time have boxing capability. There really is a lot of similarity between these two guys, and their sort of epic rise to fame and the attributes that they bring to the ring. Now, I've been critical on GGG. Not critical of him as a fighter. You can only beat what's put in front of you, and he's beaten them well. But what I've perhaps been critical of is people who put GGG as a pound for pound top 10 or even pound for pound top 5 fighter. I would argue that it is impossible to have someone as a top 5 pound for pound fighter, given the fact that, in my opinion, they haven't even beaten a top 5 fighter within their own division. Now, don't get me wrong, it may very well not be Gennady Golovkin's fault that he hasn't fought the top of the middleweight division. And by the top of the middleweight division, let me throw out a few names. Miguel Cotto, Sergio Martinez. He may not be top of the middleweight division now, but he certainly has been during GGG's reign. Peter Quillen. You could argue Andy Lee. David Lemieux. Hassan and Jikum. These are all guys who I would consider around and about the top 5 of the division. Guys like Daniel Gill and Martin Murray, they're respectable, they're credible, but they're beatable. And I'm not interested what the governing bodies say, in terms of their rankings. Let's be honest, I think the WBA have Ruslan Chagayev ranked as number 2 or 3 heavyweight in the world, and there's numerous other examples of, ridiculous rankings. But I'm not interested in, public, I'm more interested in public perception here. The truth is, if you're one of those GGG fans who says that, Daniel Gill was a top middleweight, how highly do you rate Darren Barker, who beat him? Darren Barker, to my eyes, was a below average world champion. But are you saying you rate Darren Barker as a top 3 middleweight? For me, it's a weak argument considering Barker beat Gill. My point is, regardless of whether it's Golovkin's fault or not, he hasn't faced the absolute cream of the cream at middleweight. He hasn't. Now, I'm not saying that he should look to move up or down in weight. If he's 160 and wants to fight at 160, that's absolutely fine. But he also hasn't faced the pound for pound level fighters around his weight division. Froch, Ward, DeGale, Durrell, Canelo, Lara, Andrade. My point is that if you look at the guys who would be considered top 5 fighters or top 25 pound for pound fighters between 154 and 168, Triple G hasn't fought any of them. His best wins are Murray and Daniel Gill, who are credible wins. However, if Billy Joe Saunders went out and beat Daniel Gill, if Billy Joe Saunders went out and beat Martin Murray, I don't think people would be proclaiming him as the next Marvin Hagler. So for me, it must be something to do with the eye test, the visual display and performance that Triple G is putting on. Because, if you look at the top pound for pound fighters, Mayweather, Klitschko, Andre Ward, Pacquiao, these guys have got such strong resumes of beating the top guys in their division. I mean, look at Vladimir Klitschko. Look at the guys he's beaten over his career. Look at Floyd Mayweather. Look at the amount of champs he's beaten. The amount of, top guys, undefeated guys, world champions he's gone through. How people can view Triple G on the same, even in a relative league to these guys on a pound for pound list, when he's coming into the fray with Daniel Gill and Martin Murray, tells me that people are rating him so highly based on the eye test, based on the visuals of his performance, rather than the level of opposition. Now, I'm not here to have an argument as to why Triple G hasn't fought the top opposition. I'm also not interested in having an argument as to whether Daniel Gill is a top 5 middleweight. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, whatever. But it's borderline, isn't it? He's clearly not the elite of the sport. My question is as follows. I am much more convinced on Sergey Kovalev compared to how I am with Triple G. Sergey Kovalev for me is visually as exceptional as Triple G. Sergey Kovalev brings the same power, the same aggression, the same capability in my eyes. Sergey Kovalev has brutal one-punch knockout power combined with exceptional boxing skill. But the difference is that Sergey Kovalev has proved it at a pound-for-pound level. Let me give 3 examples. Nathan Cleverly is a guy I'm a fan of. Perhaps I'm slightly biased. But Nathan Cleverly, I would say in most people's eyes, was a top 5 light heavyweight when he was WBO champion. Sergey Kovalev came to his backyard and took the belt off him via brutal knockout. Cleverly had never been down before. In fact, Cleverly has never been down since. Yet Kovalev showed huge power, to get Cleverly out of there. Let's talk the Bernard Hopkins fight. Bernard Hopkins, undeniably an all-time great. In my opinion, certainly a guy who at the time would have featured in a pound-for-pound top 20 list. Yes, I know he was old, but he was coming off wins of the likes of Tavoris Cloud, Sumanov. He held, I think he might have held 2 versions of the world title at light heavyweight. He hadn't been beaten in a very long time. And Sergey Kovalev effectively outboxed him for 12 rounds. And pretty much, So, in the Cleverly fight he showed huge power and aggression. In the Hopkins fight he showed huge technical ability and huge skill. Against a guy who was, in my opinion, the top light heavyweight in the division at the time. Certainly top 3. Cleverly top 5 when he beat him. Hopkins probably number 1. Certainly top 3. But then Sergey Kovalev also fought John Pascal. Another guy who was probably top 3. Certainly top 5. Bernard Hopkins, as I say, was a pound for pound top 20 fighter. For me, the proof there, that is complete dominance of the division, taking out Hopkins, Cleverly and Pascal, as well as, 3 or 4 other names who were pretty decent. I won't run through them now, but guys who were, let's say, top 25 light heavyweights, guys who are probably the middleweight equivalent of Curtis Stevens, Matthew Macklin, Marco Antonio Rubio. My point is, if you compare Kovalev's best wins, Hopkins, Cleverly, John Pascal, surely these are stronger wins than Triple G's best wins. Martin Murray, Daniel Gill, Marco Antonio Rubio, Gabe Rosado, Willie Monroe Jr., Hopkins, Pascal, they're just a different level to these sort of operators. So this is what I don't get. I'd understand if Sergey Kovalev was boring opponents to death, winning 12 rounds, dull decisions. But for me, Sergey Kovalev is an equally attractive, devastating, aggressive, violent fighter as Triple G. I've actually seen more frailties in my eyes to GGG's game than I've seen in Sergey Kovalev. And Sergey Kovalev has proven, in my eyes, at a much higher level. He's got a much stronger claim based on resume to being a pound-for-pound top 10 fighter than Gennady Golovkin. But why is it that Triple G is seen as the second coming of Marvin Hagler? Why is it that people are already looking to boost Golovkin as a pound-for-pound great when Kovalev is being largely ignored? I'm really interested in hearing why you rate Triple G above Kovalev on your pound-for-pound list. What do you see in Golovkin's resume that is better than Kovalev's resume? There's so many similarities between the guys. Unbeaten, Eastern Europeans, mega punchers, technical ability, coming up the ladder from zero to hero over the course of 1 or 2 years. Why is it that Triple G is the talk of the boxing world and Sergey Kovalev is a second-tier attraction? In my eyes, not only is it clear who the better fighter is, not only is it clear who the more proven fighter is, but it's also clear who the pound-for-pound contender is. Let me know your thoughts. As always, keen to discuss.